So, Michael, we had like 2 frames of you there right at the start. I mistimed that button press by a little fraction.
Slick as always.
Yeah. But I didn't mistime my button presses when I beat Zekfir on tier 2 or tier 2 question marks solo yesterday.
Yep.
Just
Matt,
before they broke them all.
Matt assisted Bran.
Yeah. It's like Bran, character name's Guardian. No, it was the other round. It was all around.
Yeah, so Delve's broke. Delve's broke. And I think they've actually quite literally broken some sort of bugs like being introduced within the last, I think, few hours where people are just kind of getting wiped. So, yeah, that's fun.
So, unfortunately, I haven't had the chance today to do any delves because, reasons. Like, I'll do my bountifuls later before reset, obviously, but I haven't had a chance to do it yet. So I don't actually know how they feel anymore. I know that before the hotfixes, the major issue was that how do I put this? They got so unbelievably easy as soon as you added more characters to your group that it was completely like, it wasn't even remotely close to a thing.
And normally when people say that, they mean like proportionately easy. You got double the power. And the enemies, maybe they only get 80% more power. No, literally, they're easier. Like, they actually have less health with 2 players in some instances. It's so weird.
Yeah, because it was Salute did a lot of he compared numbers, and you can tell they don't scale. And obviously, right, you're not supposed to have them just scale linearly. It's not 2 players, 2 million health, 3 players, 3 million health. There's obviously more things attached to it. But there were cases where you would, the number would go down instead of up sometimes. And you're like, oh, that's just not working. That's literally just not working.
Yeah. So according to Chief Scientist Slutebag, he's got 1 mob here, and basically with 1 player 4.62 million, with 2 players 3.47 million, and with 3 players 4.31 million. So that's just that bit at the bottom. That's kind of fun. It's going backwards. Sort of. So I don't know. 2 players seems to be the trick. Now, this is all quite weird and unfortunate because this is your source of potentially heroic gear in your vault.
It is. I mean, I think almost everyone who's been playing this week likely has those 3 Delve Great Vault slots with 616 in them. 616. Like heroic gear.
Geared to the tits.
Yeah. Apparently Blizzard just posted a blue post saying they're working on a fix that should be out today. So we should probably take a look at this fix and see if it's a fix, as in, because there's a couple ways you can interpret fix when Blizzard say, right? Is it, we are completely throwing all of our intentions out the window because what you experienced was broken, but you liked it, so you can have that? Or is it closer to the fun detected Blizzard that go, our vision is law, or is it something in the middle?
So far, we actually don't know. They've only said that there will be a hotfix. They haven't actually revealed the hotfix. The thing about this, though, there's going to be a lot of fun policing, but realistically, I don't really think the fun police thing is necessarily it.
I don't think so either. That's why I brought it up, because I wanted to kind of say I don't think this is fun police in any capacity.
Yeah, if something is unintentionally too easy in a game, it then becomes the absolute best way to get gear. And I guess it's a little bit helped by how it's sort of capped by your coffer keys, but then there's the things you can get at the end, the maps or whatever.
The Delver's bounties?
Yes.
Yeah, those that showed up and people went, what are these? And everyone found out and their brains nearly blew out of their skulls. 610 gear? Randomly? Just for the crack? I got 2 of them? So I'm not going to complain too much, but yeah.
Yeah, so the point here is, if it just ends up being the case where these delves are totally trivial, then it no longer... It ends up being a way for people to power gear up their characters. But it also loses its entire point in the design of the game, including for the people who would rather have delves be a thing they can actually progress on. That being said, they're not the hardest things in the universe starting off. You can get to tier 8 pretty quick.
Yeah, so obviously there's
depending on wherever the scaling ends up.
It depends on what goalposts Blizzard are moving with hotfixes every now and again. Because it's clear that no matter whatever hit the road wasn't what they intended.
Yeah.
Because tier 8's probably the most rewarding things. if you're doing those at like fresh gear, you should at least be. I guess you should at least be like taxed in some capacity. But I feel like, and this is like, I'm gonna try to avoid getting into a whole conversation about skill gaps in World of Warcraft because there's like, and even discounting class and spec differences. It's so funny that if you understand that you can just taunt a single mob or death grip a single mob or pull a single mob, delves will go from being impossible to being easy because that's how they work.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the biggest thing for people is like once you learn how to play the game. But even at that, tier 8s are still like whatever way they're scaling is, it's clearly just started way too low. But then you bring Bran into it as well, and Bran clearly doesn't do what he's supposed to do. His AI is really not very like consistent to the point where beating Zekfir on the like hardest difficulty is almost entire. Okay, you have to pass all the skill checks,
Yeah.
which is handle all the mechanics perfectly. But if you do that, there is still a huge amount that's down to RNG. Just will Bran dodge the fear, or will he be feared for ages?
Oh, very good.
Will he be feared? Will he be feared and then swap target to the hatching egg that is basically a mob that'll spawn that'll destroy your life? If he swaps, good job, you win. If he doesn't, too bad. So there's that, as well as his his entire like damage output. Just seems weird because it seems to scale with the tier of the Delve, which is the invisible hand of the designer behind the curtain, making the game make no sense to you whatsoever.
Yes, that surely makes all of your own like selections and progress feel real intuitive.
Yeah, that's the thing, because there was two of us did it last night, right? Oh, if he decides to use rapid fire, yeah, if he turns around and goes rapid fire, it's just whatever you're fighting just explodes. And you're like, spot on, done. But there were two of us in our guild last night that did it on the hard difficulty. It took like, I think I was grinding at it for like an hour until I got it, and then the other player who plays DK was also doing Unholy. Went, okay, well I'll try if you can do it. He's like 20 item levels below me, and he still did it, and there was almost no difference in kill time because it was all Bran. I think it was like Bran did 72% of damage in the fight for me, and like 74% for him. And you go, this clearly doesn't work. Blizzard, you clearly have like this feeds into the kind of when you look at a lot of the smaller, finer details around the entirety of the War Within, you go,
yes.
oh, this isn't ready. This wasn't ready. This was nowhere near close. This was like at least a month out. Asterisk, live data makes them fix it faster.
I hope we get
awful.
an explainer for this.
Yeah, I really hope so too.
Sorry, the way I said that sounded like a threat. I didn't mean it like a threat. I mean, I'm interested. It's cool whenever they tell us like specifically what broke. So there's more things. So I know the people have just been getting utterly murdered today. I know the different specs for Bran have been performing differently. I thought I'd do the intuitive thing and as a DPS, make Bran a healer. Is that what you're doing?
No, I did that. And then I felt like an idiot when I swapped him to DPS and suddenly he was wrecking stuff.
You telling me that my solo delves could have been completely trivial?
Probably not completely trivial.
Oh, they were
because-
basically quite
Yeah.
trivial.
Yeah, so I think he's like, he gets, I think it might be the Zekfir one specifically he's really busted in. But it is
Okay.
generally the case of Bran will do most of the work for you if you do what you're doing. In a lot of cases. It's very, very awkward. It's like clearly the intent of this being progression, in the same way that Mythic Plus is broken in progression. Entirely because you've got players who, people like us, more or less, will end up doing Mythic Zeros and being, okay, yeah, we can do those easy enough without much bother because mechanics. Okay, well, the scaling comes in, the other stuff comes in, they're a little bit rough. And then you kind of progress up, you're doing your 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and there's somewhere in the middle, maybe the affix jump comes and like hard stops you. Or maybe it's just like, okay, we have to gear and out gear some parts. But then you've got Mythic players and like the high skill players who show up and go, well, we can do Mythic 10s week 1. You're like, well, where's the progress for those people? And it's like, you're literally so good at this game, we cannot like expend the resources to design progression for you because it's nearly impossible. So it's kind of awkward and they fall into the same issue in a way. And I don't like. There's so many elements to it. It's hard to dig into a single point. It's just like what was their goal for Delves? Was it progression? Then they've completely kind of screwed the pooch.
But yeah, if Bran's doing all the work, they've screwed it.
Yeah, he's not doing all the work a lot of the time as well. There is a case where like it is literally like you're tanking stuff in, say, the attack with Abyss, and they're hitting you. If you can survive that, then you're fine. But like, clearly the point was they scale up to the point where, say you're doing 11, right?
Yeah.
You'll just die to mechanics. So in theory, the point is you have to, once you have so many mechanics you can't counteract them all, then you need to outgear or change your strategy in some meaningful capacity, like bring other people or whatever else. It feels like that was maybe supposed to start earlier. Where you're supposed to
Surely
go
earlier. So I think my character's item level's awful. I did not get to play as much as I wanted to last week, so it was only like 577. Right, 577. I think the most recent delve that because I only got to do progression now, I think it was the tier 6 one. I'm going to do my delves properly at the weekend. And I expected it to be harder, but I wasn't really sure. That said, my Bran was healing, right? So my Bran was healing, and like I think I had 2 deaths, but it's because I basically just pulled everything. Because that's how you normally play WoW. As soon as you
that's
don't...
how you play a delve below tier 7 or 6.
Oh, yeah.
You walk in and go, I can just do everything. Because things die before the mechanics start to like cause problems.
Yeah, it really is funny. I actually may not get to play a delve before the fixes come, which is really annoying. Because I want to put Bran onto DPS and see how that goes. Because like at least healing... There's still bits where it felt like he was doing quite a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's fairly strong. I think most of the outlier is in the Zekvir delves. He's not quite as hard to carry. But I did see people say that they can... that there's a couple of tier 8 bosses they couldn't do until they pulled the boss and shadow melded, and then the boss didn't care about them and didn't throw any mechanics at them. And then Bran just soloed the boss.
Good on him.
Yeah. Because I'm a little bit fixated on the Bran issue, because I think that's where an awful lot of it. Do they not know about the busted fix? We know about the busted fix. We know about the busted fix. We have all of the bit right here.
Oh,
we're literally talking.
You know what? Actually, that's
yeah. So this is what they actually changed in the
Engage in the
hotfixes
details.
last night, which is they increased the health scaling of enemies and delves when grouped with other players. Because that was one of the big problems, right? That was one of the big problems. Was you just kind of went, "This is hard, friend. Come in. This is half as difficult. Mobs have less HP now."
I'd love it
Okay,
if you just
cool.
you went onto this post again, you refreshed, and it was just all strike through. Just all strike through new line. Oops, reverted.
Yeah. Tier 8 was destroyed last night for solo. Yeah, I was seeing that as well. Although I've seen people say it's fine. I've seen people say it's not. So I don't really know if there was something really kind of funny going on there. It's a little bit odd. Waterworks boss is a kind of a tier of its own, spamming unavoidable AoE. There's certainly some cases where the design is you can out-mechanic this, and other times the design are you a paladin? No,
Yeah.
like the Nerubian Lord boss that does a sting swarm, that feels like just an AoE damage. Sorry, you can outrange that. But it's like as soon as he you know he's going to do it, you sprint away at full speed, and hopefully you've got the room to outrange it. Otherwise, you're just dead. Because we did a tier 11 Dread Pit, I think.
Oh,
as a group.
that's gaming. That's hard
So
mode.
tier 10
Wow.
or tier 11, and it was hilarious because every single mechanic one shot us. It was literally just. But this was before they changed this thing.
Yes, which is the unexpected lethality.
No, I'm talking
Oh
about
no,
this.
it was that.
I'm talking
Okay.
about this because they just decided to change the whole thing on a whim. Not on a whim,
They
but on
ev-
feedback. Like
Yeah,
obviously,
they evidently saw people were getting
Yeah.
confused. So yes, now instead of revives, which I suppose made people think about like reviving your friend and like PUBG or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, or like a team game. Yeah, they've changed that name, and whenever you reach a checkpoint, you get another life. So there you go. They've made that a little bit more clear and easy.
but they've also made it. How do I put this? Hard. Because we died so many times last night doing tier, because people I'm playing with wanted to try Zekvir, but they hadn't done a tier 10 because you need to clear tier 10 to get Zekvir's tier 2 unlocked. So we did that as a group, but that was very, very difficult. But we were basically bumbling through it like idiots, and we sort of managed because it was 2 DKs, a Warlock and Hunter. So Warlock had Hunter Pet do all the tanking possible, and anytime we died, we intelligently cycled our battle reses because battle reses don't count towards, because a res doesn't count. We didn't have an actual res. Like that would have made it trivial. Like if you have a Night Elf Druid that can Shadow Meld to drop combat and then res, you never lose a revive. So that was really, really funny.
I'll put that in the tips and tricks video.
Yeah, so we kind of we can't anymore, like, but we abused that in a way to get through it. So they've kind of changed it, and like, damn, that's weird.
Yeah, so unfortunately, until we get more information, like until these hotfixes come, and hopefully because there's times where it feels like one team gets the go-ahead, but just because it all takes teams and approvals to do communication, like the actual fixes are perhaps already in or almost already in, so there's a chance this could be fixed during the stream, in which case, that would be cool. Yeah, overall, it kind of blows that it ended up going down this way, mostly because it sets expectations in a weird place. This is heroic raid gear. It's weird. Like, this is heroic raid gear. Compare that, to heroic raid, right?
Yeah.
Just compare the Great Vaults between these two options, right? It's completely...
Yeah.
It is completely different.
We went from doing some tier 8 dolls in a group to doing Mythic Zeros. And the entire time, I think we did like Dawnbreaker, Grim Batol, something else. And the entire time we were laughing, going, Why is this harder than the Delves are? What do you mean? Like, why is this more challenging? I'm getting 593 gear at the end of this, and I get like 603 in my vault. Whereas in the Bountiful Delve, I get way more. And you're like, damn, it's clear that whatever they wanted just didn't come to fruition. And that's frustrating because of the expectations set, like you were saying. And I think my major fear for this is, how do they navigate this? How do they ever have us like play the game without expecting free heroic gear? Because obviously, like, I'm not gonna say fun detected, but that's what it is, right? It is. Like, history is going to look back fondly on Delves at the beginning because everyone's swimming in gear, swimming in amazing gear that they, in terms of the rules set forward by the game in terms of where to get gear,
earned.
They did not earn. They did not earn it in according to the difficulty of whatever else. And I think that's like, obviously, maybe Blizzard want Delves be easier. Maybe they want that because it's, not as farmable as M+ or whatever, but it's weird, weird. Flagship feature, by the way. Yeah, that's what I think the part that frustrates me the most, because I really like them.
Yeah.
In 95% of cases. I think they're clever in how they reuse like the same locales over and over again with like different ways. I think that the general set of mechanics are a little bit simple in the way that what's the example I'm trying to think of? The Maid Char had a load of bosses and they all had very specific mechanics that were like fine-tuned for specs to deal with. They can't do this here. They can do some of that, but only in the like generic sense of, well, here's interrupts, here's things you need to stun, here's things that are all kind of there. It's kind of awkward to me that that's one of the limitations. But despite that, they've managed to do a really good job. Like the Zekvir fight, if it wasn't broken. Okay, you know what? I might just be summing Delves and World of Warcraft up in a really pithy way here. But if it wasn't broken, it would be really good.
There you go.
Like,
oh dear, yes. That's the review. The whole thing, if you get gear but you don't earn it, it's kind of like gorging a bunch of... satisfaction or some form of contentment is what you want. The way to do that is to progress along a challenging thing where you grow and then your progression is rewarded, right? That's like a long-term sustainable way to get better at something that's satisfying. Or you could just eat the whole tub of Ben & Jerry's right now and then follow it up with a whole tube of Prongles.
sounds good.
And a bunch of Doritos.
You wouldn't follow up. You would intermingle the sweet and the salty.
You would.
Obviously,
you would.
yeah.
Oh, you'd of course min max. But that's the problem, right? That's going to flood your brain with way more dopamine than the actual long-term sustainable thing will. And I think you kind of have that problem in games. Like, so many games ended up going in this sort of direction of, loot! We will just shower our players in loot.
I love Darksiders too.
And then I start to think, why are our players not really motivated by loot? What's happening? And so that's the problem right
Over-justification
now.
effect.
Yes.
That's the literal term used by the ex-Diablo 3 Loot 2.0 developer.
And so that's kind of the struggle here. People will feel great about this. They'll get a big sugar rush from all of their gear. That's very good. They got very quickly in their big tasty vault. And then it will feel bad. It'll be more sustainable in the long run, but it'll feel bad. That's what happens if you just make a free loot pinata and you put it in your MMO for real progression.
This sounds like two guys that haven't tried to solo anything since the update. We literally said that's the case. Yes. There's obviously they said that there's more hotfixes coming in to change things.
Yeah, that's why we're mostly talking about the way it was for the first few days. So the point there is for a whole bunch of people, their first few day experience ended up being trivialized. So if the fixes that Blizzard does now means that tier 6, 7, and 8 are a bit harder, commensurate with the gear that they give, that's pretty good. That'll be more healthy for the game. But for that first cohort of players who got it bugged and busted with a absolute simultaneously stupid but extremely lethal Bran, then it'll feel bad to them, even though it will be better. And that's kind of the design struggle that Blizzard have. Yeah.
I wish we were more of I don't know how to describe it. If this were a more chaotic show than it usually is, I would just open the game and try to solo one now. But no, I won't do that.
Yeah, so you just do it on your laptop with the Apple trackpad. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. That'd be easy. There's something there that I wanted to read. Yes, it was Burl saying, I get so frustrated. Why are most of the player base really this bad at the game? That's something that I think World of Warcraft has always had to contend with and will have to contend with, which is it caters to a very, very, very wide gamut of players. And that unfortunately means that there's a lot of players who, because of how the game has motivated them historically and how the game's group nature and how raids for so long have not really required everyone to be extreme outside of they get to unless they're in the mythic scenario. By design, the game doesn't force you to get good. It's not like many single player action games recently where it's the whole mantra is get good. We're gonna challenge you and kind of go for that.
I can see your skill points rising in diplomacy in real time as you explain the point.
Yeah, because I also get frustrated and I think, God damn it, my life would be so much easier playing World of Warcraft if I could rely on pugs to have two brain cells rub together. But I can't. And that's one of the really frustrating things about it is frustrating to play the game when everyone at this wide range of skill is in the same pot. It's like you're playing, God forbid, say you're playing League of Legends, right?
Yeah. Oh.
And there's a reason people play ranked, and then to de-stress they go and play normal queue, because if they're good in ranked,
for a reason.
Yeah, they hop into normal queue and they can obliterate people.
Yeah.
And they're happy about that because that's what they want to actually do. They want to, play. They want to abuse that. It's the whole skill-based matchmaking thing, where skill-based matchmaking, it's a bit different because we're talking PvP versus PvE here, but the whole point of skill-based matchmaking is the people who are vocally against it are the people who are really good and want to noob stomp. And it's almost like the reverse of that in WoW, where WoW you don't want to play with people who are noobs because they will hold you back in content.
Yeah.
And it's that's just what happens. And it doesn't mean noob is in newbie, it's noob is in people who've never learned to play the game. And it's I don't want to make a particular value judgment. I'm not sitting here going, oh, you haven't learned to play World of Warcraft? Well, you must be a shitter then. Ha ha ha.
You don't want to make a value judgment, but...
but it's very, very different, right? It's different to... well, I think that's
different.
The point,
yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting place that WoW's in. Has always been, as evidenced by Cata Heroics existing. Like, you love your Cata Heroic Dungeons.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That has to be a mention in every stream.
Yeah, that was like the first skill check that they decided to apply widely to the audience, and didn't go so well. And then they did the same again in Warlords.
If you weren't there during Cata Heroics, it was a flipping time. Like, it was a time, and especially because Ghostcrawler, like, he took to the forums and he wrote his thesis on dungeons. Loads of us thought, oh, this is great. Oh my God, I'm using my mechanics. I'm doing more than just damage. And then they nerfed the shit out of them very rapidly.
Yeah, and that's why I had a lot of fun fighting Zekfir. Both versions are pretty good. The second is like slightly hard, like a decent bit harder mechanically, but more it's numerically way harder. But like the whole way that fight actually goes is basically you have to use interrupts to interrupt Zekfir from a couple casts. There are too many casts to interrupt, so you have to prioritize which ones. And like if you can deal with ones another way, you can do for that. Then there's the ad spawn, which is clearly intended to be a swap DPS to the ad, but you don't do enough damage to kill it before it spawns, which means then it turns into a fight where you, without using your interrupt, because you need to save it for Zekfir, who's also doing conal slams and swirlies and circle fears and webs that are flying around the place trying to get you, you have to keep the spider from web blasting. So as a DK, it's like you chain grip over a long distance so it stays in the air and can't cast for as long as possible. Blinding Sleet, try not to let Bran hit it to break the Blinding Sleet, to keep it alive long enough to actually then get, or to keep it CC'd without using interrupt long enough, while also trying to do everything Zekfir's doing. And it felt really fun to me to have to deal with all of these things that aren't do as much damage as possible. Like I would almost love to see a fight that is, this boss is immune, but will just try to kill you as hard as possible for like 2 minutes, stay alive and interrupt stuff and dodge stuff. I would really like that in the solo environment.
Yeah.
But then you'd have, Pilaf, God, bless him for being back and all, but that whole, like, stop damage, I don't want to stop damage thing is like, that's
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm an Unholy DK. That's what I was doing. And I will definitely say Unholy DK is, well, I mean, Frost is probably just as good, but DK is a really, really good class for soloing. Stuff like that because of the death strike resets when you kill something, or the procs I should say, when you kill something and you get a massive heal, so you can just chain and sort things out.
Paladin definitely feels a bit busted. Like, oh my God, our kit's just so useful for Delves.
Yeah.
So we're overall left in a funny little spot because I think Delves are basically class. However, they're totally broken. Really, all we can do is move to the next topic and wait, and hopefully the hot fixes will be there before the end of this stream. Otherwise, basically, we mentioned the Delves are busted in the WoW News episode that comes out tomorrow, but I think it's out for members today, maybe?
It's out for members tonight after.
Okay, sick. It's mentioned in that, but that's because we're doing something pretty substantial on Monday when we can actually collect together all of the bullshit that's happened. Because I think by this stage, depending on at what point you've been in Twitter, refreshed Wowhead, or done a delve in game, people have got so many different versions of what delves are like in their head.
Yeah.
Within the span of 3 days.
Which is obviously
Amazing.
that's obviously what's happening here with some of this back and forth between chat where people are like, is it what's it like after update? Like, haven't done it, sorry. I probably should have tried to squeeze some in earlier today. But I didn't have time, unfortunately. But yes. We'll talk about Raid eventually, because we did do that on yesterday. I stayed up late, so my sense time is completely destroyed. So Delves will be a video on Monday. Probably Monday, yeah. And we'll have everything.
Yep, looking forward to that.
Everything updated, assuming they update it, and the update on tomorrow doesn't break it as well. If that breaks it differently, that'd be funny. But
good luck, Blizzard developers. Friday hotfixes. Friday hotfixes are the best.
Yeah.
I hope they work.
Yeah. Indeed.
Oh dear, right. So our commiserations to anyone at Blizzard who has got the fun of fixing delves over the weekend. I have a sense that's going to be what's happening.
Yeah, and congratulations to anyone who got Zekfir down and got their Void Delvers dirigible early. Me.
I hope you get rolled back, you motherfucker.
I hope I do too, because
Aw.
I'd really like to do it again, but I will find it hard to be motivated since I've already done it. I'd love him to take away my Ascension Breaker title and fucking fix it, Michael.
Ascension Breaker.
It's called Ascension Breaker, but you know
Yeah.
the way most titles are either there's two forms of title. There's in front of your name, title name, or there's name, comma, title.
Mm-hmm.
This one's just name, title. No comma, nothing. I'm like,
That's your surname?
yeah.
Your name is Matt Ascension Breaker?
Yeah, Alessia Ascension Breaker.